Dear viewers, welcome to another super edition of Interview with Stephen Anhui. On today's show, we're looking at the effect of Nollywood movies on Nigerian youth. And my guest is Professor Doki Amangaon. He's a lecturer with Benue State University and, of course, Professor of Theatre Art. He has served as Dean Faculty of Art and as well as head of department. He was Dean of Student Affairs, and of course, he was also the convener of International Conference on Nollywood Women Cultural Identity, hosted by Department of Theatre at Benue State University. He joins me online. Prof is welcome to interview with Stephen Anwen. It's so nice to be with you here.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
Today we live in a visually intensive society and a world of spectacular and exciting images. Often than not, man is said to be the product of what he sees. Apparently, there seems to be some sort of impact or effect of contemporary Nollywood movies on the susceptible mind of youth around the world, especially the Nigerian youth. As a professor of theater art, you are not unfamiliar with this development. Can you please run us through the impact or effect of Nollywood movies on the Nigerian youth?
Well, thank you very much. Nollywood as an industry has had varying levels of effect on the Nigerian youth. And I will start from the positive. Of course, you know that as an industry, Nollywood has been able to provide jobs for a number of Nigerian youth. Some who have actually served and are serving as actors and actresses. Some who are involved in the business of producing these movies. Some at the level of marketing these movies. And so, to that extent, the industry has had tremendous effect on the average Nigerian youth. By the design of this industry, it is also expected to build the moral background of most youth. And this is where we seem to be having some controversy amongst scholars. Some believe that rather than build the moral base of Nigerian youth, the movie industry has had tremendous negative effect on the morality of Nigerian youth, due largely because of the content that is found in these movies. Because we don't have scientific proof as to the extent to which the movie industry has affected the Nigerian youth negatively. Most of what is being said is speculative from the value judgment of individual scholars. Some say the movie industry has been largely responsible for encouraging violence, because most of the thematic focus in some of these films is woven around some gun culture tradition, which ostensibly has been imported from American movies or movies from the West. And so most of our movies copy that. And our youth who are exposed to these movies uncensored in quote, sometimes are moved to wanting to try some of these things they see in the movies. And so to that extent, most scholars believe that the Nollywood industry is largely responsible for the raging culture of violence that has permeated the Nigerian nation. They might be right, because most of our producers today are people who are not thoroughly schooled in the area of filmmaking. And so everybody jumps into it with a few thousands in his or her pocket. He jumps into the industry, get a story from anywhere, prepare it, and within a week or two, such movies are in the market. So the professionalism that is needed to fine-tune these movies to a level that they will have positive impact on its viewers is not there. And so our youth are exposed to content that is not refined. They are exposed to content that is not censored. Not censored in the sense that we have the Nigerian Video and Film Censors Board that is largely responsible for content. What this means is that the board should be able to approve which content should hit the market. But in most times, this doesn't happen. And so every film finds its way into the market, whether it has some positive benefits or not. It is there in the market, and our youth who are vulnerable are exposed to this. And so when youth who are undeveloped psychologically get exposed to some of this content, they can't process it properly. And so they take to the street wanting to demonstrate what they see on the screen. Take, for instance, our young girls. They most times are not aware that some of the fashion, some of the costume they see in these movies are location-specific costumes. They just wear them, they see them, like them, get them, and then wear them to anywhere they choose to go. However, you need to know that some of these costumes were worn just to shoot a particular scene. And so, if you are developed why and how a particular costume was used in a particular movie, you should know that this costume should not be worn on the street. But because they don't know or don't understand the import of this, they go wear them and are on the street. And so this accounts for cases of indecent dressings that are responsible for cases of increasing cases of rapes today. And so to this extent, again, the movie industry has had negative impact on our youth. So what some of us have been saying all this while is that there's a need for training and retraining of stakeholders, those who are in the business of making movies. It doesn't matter as an actor, as a producer, as a director, as a costumier, as a designer. We all need some formal training that will equip us sufficiently that we are guided with the rudiments of film production. If this is done, you can be sure that some of the labs that promote some of these negative vices will greatly be reduced because you now are empowered with requisite knowledge, with requisite technique, with requisite experience to be able to create something, both in terms of content and finishing, that will appeal positively to the Nigerian nation.
Okay, in your response, you talk about the negative impact that Nollywood movie seem to have on the Nigerian youth. I want us to dwell on that heavily. Now, what do you have to say to the
Yes.
unfortunate development of cable network becoming silent teachers in many homes as it has turned into a subtle platform where many minds are defied and besmirched through extremely, violent movies. You have horrific crime scene and uncensored display of sexual perversion has depicted in a movie titled Hot Sex, which is a Nollywood, Gary Wood joint production, which is against the norms, culture, and tradition of Africans, which advocate decency and modesty in dressing and character. What do you have to say that? I want you to lend your voice to that.
Well, that's all for desperate measures. We have had this permeate the society. And so there are different levels of monitoring. We have monitoring at the level of the schools, the respective primary, secondary, nursery schools should step up their monitoring of these kids when they are under their custody. Aside this, as parents, we also would necessarily have to step up our vigilance towards our children. But most times is when we leave them unattended to, that they stray into some of this content that they shouldn't be exposed to. And I remember even as old as I was in the university, I was living with my elder brother, and he won't let me tune on the television when it's not there. And so this is what parents should do. It may sound so harsh, it may sound so uncivilized, but like I say, desperate times call for desperate measures. And so parents will have to devise means of monitoring and watching their children so that you are privy to whatever this way you'll be able to decide for him. And then agencies, we have state agencies that are put in place to regulate some of these things. Like I mentioned, the Nigerian Video and Film Censors Board. What is their role in moderating behavior? What is their role in monitoring what gets to the public? They should ensure that some of this content do not get to the public, not to talk of our children. And if they do, you must stress to find out the source and perpetrators of this content. It's very easy, we can't trust them. And so these agencies must have to step up their role of policing content to be able to regulate what gets to the public.
Okay, Prof, let's talk about language and dressing habits. You see, the 21st century youth are swayed by what is involved. There are many times that the language and dressing habits of youth are duplication of what they see on the screen from their idols, which at times are unpopular and sacrilegious. For example, words like, swagger, fuck you niggy, what's up, and so on and so on. Now, if you watch Selena Tested, you will admit that the movie is awash with a pomotio of slangs that are not very decent. Again, it is heart-wrenching to see Nollywood male actors who should be role models, sagging, wearing earrings, tattooing, piercing, braid, and all of that. Now, uh, don't you think that we have gotten it wrong? What should the government do in order to discourage this unfortunate trend?
Government has done what it should do, and that is putting in place agencies to monitor and regulate this. What is lacking perhaps is the ability and the competence to do what these agencies should do. Most times, movies are rated, and if you see anything below 18, which means anybody below 18 should not be exposed to such movies. Who would enforce this? And that's where I talk about parents. I talk about teachers. Because for most times, these children are left in schools. So at that level, teachers should be able to monitor the content these children are exposed to. These days, as early as JSS1, these children are given laptops. And so if deliberate efforts are not made to block out certain features on these laptops, you can be sure that these children on their own can explore to whatever level and get some of this content we are talking about. But beyond the schools, we have our homes. What are we doing in our homes? Because yes, you cannot stop actors from wearing earrings. You can't stop them from wearing miniskirt or short or skimpy wears. You can't stop them because, like I said, some scenes demand some of these costumes. Some things demand some of these earrings. They are not necessarily the lifestyles of these stars, but they are there to send out messages. And so, for a younger person who is not able to interpret these messages, he carries it out and begin to replicate what he sees his idols or his what do you call them, stars do. So they go on the street with this. That's why these films are rated, and some are not for people younger than the ages of 18.
Okay,
so
Professor.
basically, whether you go around, you go to high heavens and come back. Yes.
Okay, Professor, let me pick.
Whether you go to high heavens and come back, what? Yes.
Okay, go on,
ahead.
go on, go on, go on.
No, like I was saying, whether we go to high heavens and come back, what I am saying is that we need to step out our regulatory skills, our regulatory mechanisms. This is the only way we are able to censor what gets to the public and invariably gets to our children. If we don't police, if we are not as vigilant as always snooping around to see what our children do with some of these gadgets we give them, which are supposedly expected to help and build their research base, we may just be talking grammar on street like I'm talking to you now.
Okay,
we
Prof.
necessarily have to step out our monitoring mechanisms.
Okay, Prof. Let me pick Prof.
Our youth are exposed to.
Okay, Prof. Let me pick
Yes.
your brains on something. You know, in a TV program in which
Yes.
Kenneth Okonkwo, in a TV program in which Kenneth Okonkwo was a guest, you know, the anchor of the show said a boy who was caught with human parts in which he intended to use for rituals said he derived his motivation from Nollywood. Would I be wrong to say, instead of teaching morals and virtues, Nollywood teaches vices? Don't you think I'm right?
No, that would not be completely right. Because definitely there are some Nollywood movies. I'm not a movie person, but there are some Nollywood movies. Yes, that will not be totally correct. Because definitely Nollywood movies that are good, both in content and quality. And such movies have lessons that help our youth grow. So you can't be a blanket conclusion that Nollywood teaches some of these vices. I remember in the 80s and the early 90s when Nollywood emerged and was trying to find its foot. One of the foremost criticism was that it was too ritual based. Most of the content was ritual oriented and based. But I think they've since grown beyond that. But one thing you must understand is there's a nexus, there's a symbiotic relationship between society and the art, which film production is one of it. So the rudiments of production are gotten from what obtains in society. So it is what obtains in society largely that producers use to put in the film sequence. And so it is not that Nollywood is generating content that is destroying or impacting negatively on our youth. Nollywood is trying to unearth and bring to the fore some of these vices that are happening behind the scenes. And the intended essence is for people to watch and take precaution. Unfortunately, undeveloped minds like our youth, who are sometimes even below 18, happen on this content. And without the analytical mind, the consciousness to analyze and understand the intended message, they go with the wrong message. And that is why such a youth will tell you that he derived motivation from watching Nollywood movies. Most times, the intention of the producer is not to corrupt the person. The intention is to teach certain lessons. But some people are not as critical, are not as developed mentally. And so when they watch, they miss the point of the message of such movies and take the negative. To such people, these are the people who are saying you must have to watch and guide them against imbibing the negative virtues over and above the positives from these movies.
Okay, Prof. Very briefly and quickly, what advice do you have for parents who have allowed a cable network to become silent teachers in their homes?
Yeah, I know that technology has come to stay with us. and we cannot do without some of these online social networks. But like I keep saying, like I've been saying from when we started, the word is censorship. We must devote some time to want to find out what our children are doing with the gadgets we have given them to help them in their schoolwork. With this, sometimes it just happen on them. Sometimes just call them unconsciously, collect his or her phone, go through it, and look at the content he or she has been exposed to. That will give you an idea of what he or she is doing with the phone. Sometimes wake up in the night, happen on their rooms, check their laptops, their iPads to see what content they have been working with on these gadgets. This will give you an idea of what and what they are exposed to, and thus help you to guide them, to redirect them, and sometimes even to discipline them so that they will fall in line in terms of what values you want them to imbibe.
Unfortunately, Professor Doki Amagawon, we have to leave it there. I must say that thank you for being on interview with Stephen Ahwin.
Thank you very much.